Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode we're going to be talking about top 10 offensive tackles in the 2024 NFL draft class based on data and analytics, other statistical factors to determine who the top 10 tackles are in this particular draft class. Now, with all this stuff out, make sure you stay to the end of the video where we're going to reveal who the number one tackle is in this class. And it's not who you think it is. So please stay tuned till the end. But let's talk about how we're going to get to the grading in this offensive tackle class. And there's two main things that I use. One is offensive tackle athleticism scores. I use mass density athleticism uh, testing. So essentially, I take the mass density or weight divided by height, and then I compare it to the vertical and broad jump, which is explosiveness, the 40-yard dash, which of course is their speed score, and then the short shuttle and three cone, which kind of gives you the agility testing or flexibility testing, as I like to call it in my particular data. With those numbers, you're able to kind of see how explosive they are for their size, how fast they are for their size, and then how flexible they are as well for their size. So that's kind of how I do athleticism testing. And then I also use something called an offensive tackle EAV score, which is the data score that you're going to see. And that score takes into account physical metrics like height, weight, arm length, athleticism testing, their age, their strength of team, how strong of a team they played at, and their strength of schedule. There actually is a pretty high correlation at offensive line positions favoring offensive linemen that have great age scores, who played on great teams in college and also played against tough competition. There are going to be some outliers here and there in the data, of course, so you will have that happens. But for the most part, offensive tackles that are young, that are very athletic, that played against tough competition on a great team, typically go on to have great outcomes at the NFL level, and that is how the bulk of these data grades are made. Now, getting to number 10 on this list, we have Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. The pros, he had above average athleticism overall with good size. Cons, does not have elite athleticism traits. And his SSA score, which essentially is his strength of schedule, strength of team, and age score, is the only thing kind of holding him up. So he didn't test the best as an athlete. He's kind of a slightly above average athlete overall. But his data grade is decent, 89.96 out of 100. Taking a look at his athleticism to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. He had a 70 percentile explosion score, 58 percentile in terms of speed for his size, and then 57.91 in terms of flexibility. When you look at the All-Pro averages, the All-Pro threshold, the Pro Bowl averages, and the Pro Bowl threshold, he's closer to the starter averages than he is an All-Pro or Pro Bowl tackle, but it's still a pretty solid profile overall. So you can project him at least to become a decent starter. But that's why he's number 10 on this list. Then we get to number 9. We have Tylen Grable from Central Florida. Pros, he had elite explosiveness, a 99 percentile explosion score actually, and then 90 plus percentile in terms of speed. Cons, he's older, he has an older age, and below average strength of schedule, strength of team's age, or SSA score. His data grade is 90.19 out of 100. So Tylen Grable, when you look at his athleticism traits, great athleticism, probably one of the most athletic tackles in this draft class, especially when it comes to explosiveness for his size. So he could play either position really easily. If you put him at guard, if you put him at tackle, he can do everything. But he is older. He does have issues in terms of the strength of schedule that he faced in terms of playing at Central Florida and not really playing against the top competition. So those are kind of the biggest things that kind of knock him a little bit from a data perspective. But overall, he has all the tools that you're looking for at the position, and I think anybody would be excited to have him. Then, of course, you get to number 8 on this list, which is Jordan Morgan from Arizona. Pros, he had near elite speed and above average athleticism overall. And then, of course, cons, he did not do agility testing and has below average size and length. So his size, he's not exactly like 330 plus pounds in terms of his size. And on top of that, his length isn't exactly elite either. This doesn't really hurt him 100%. I mean, he's still a good tackle with a 92.18 data grade, but that is a little bit of a concern that he doesn't quite have those traits that you're looking for. So again, when you look at his traits here, near elite speed, as you can see, and then above average explosiveness for his size. So he pretty much has all the traits you're looking for in terms of an all-pro tackle without the size and the length that you typically expect from tackles that are like that. So he's probably in between a Pro Bowl, a starter, based on his height and based on his length. And of course, we get to number 7, which is Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma. Pros, he had elite explosiveness and near elite flexibility with good length. Cons, only slightly above average speed for his size. 93.47 out of 100 in terms of his data grade. Taking a look at his athleticism traits here. 94, again, as you can see, percentile explosiveness, 81 percentile in terms of flexibility for his size, with below average speed. He kind of takes himself out of the all-pro area with his speed score. The vast majority of all-pro tackles had at least 86 percentile speed for their size. And when I say all-pro, I'm talking about multiple all-pro tackles. So he kind of takes himself out of that with his speed score. But this is still a really good zone blocking scheme tackle. Most of the time, zone blocking scheme tackles just have to have the flexibility to have leverage. And then, of course, they also have great explosiveness in terms of, getting sideline to sideline, or at least getting to the zone a lot quicker than other people. So he has those traits that you're looking for in terms of a zone blocking tackle, but he does have a speed score that is a little concerning if he goes up against certain edge prospects that might have, the jump on him. But he can compensate with his short area explosiveness. Then, of course, we get to number 6 on this list, which is, Taliz Fuaga from Oregon State. Pros, he had elite explosiveness and elite or near elite speed with elite size measurements. Cons, average length and did not do flexibility testing. His data grade is 97.81 out of 100. The biggest thing that's really dropping him is just his length is, not like elite length. It's not elite. It's good enough to start, but it's not elite. And then, of course, you have, not really going through all of the testing that you would like him to go through. Taking a look at his data here in terms of offensive tackle prospects, 96 percentile in terms of explosiveness, which is, again, is fantastic. 86 percentile in terms of speed. He hits at least the all-pro average, not the all-pro average, but the all-pro threshold, I should say, in terms of his overall athleticism traits. But you don't really have him going through everything. So I would say most of the tackles from this point on, you can kind of grade them however you want. So if you find that a tackle is your number 1 tackle on this list and he's number 6 on this list is based on data. But I would say that all the tackles that I'm going to be going through, starting with Fuaga, are tackles where if you have a film grade that's higher on them compared to the other tackles, they're all within that same range of potential. All the tackles I'm going to be mentioning coming up are going to have all-pro potential, just as Fuaga has all-pro potential. So keep that in mind as we kind of go through the list here. But overall, Fuaga does have a good overall profile for the position, but there are some question marks in terms of his length and didn't really go through all the testing. Then, of course, we get to number 5 in this list, which is Roger Rosengarten from Washington. Pros, he had elite speed and near elite explosiveness / flexibility for his size. Cons, below average weight and size for the position. The data grade that I calculated based on his overall metrics was 98.20 out of 100. Taking a look at his athleticism traits, 84 percentile in terms of explosiveness, 84 percentile in terms of flexibility, with a 96.91 percentile speed score. Fantastic numbers for him in terms of those particular data points. And again, he's one of those tackles that has all the traits you're looking for. Just look at the all-pro average. He's pretty much right there almost in terms of the all-pro average at the tackle position. So it would not be surprising if he was to hit those marks or at least become a pretty decent starter long term. Then we get to number 4 on this list, which is Fashanu from Penn State. He has elite size and good length with near elite explosiveness. Cons, did not test for agility. Data grade 98.24 out of 100. Again, these guys are getting closer and closer. The data grades between them are this much. So again, if you have him higher based on your film evaluation, I don't have a problem with that. But this is just based on their overall data, guys. It's based on their numbers. So taking a look at his athleticism traits, he had an 87 percentile explosion score, 78.54 speed score. Didn't quite hit the all-pro threshold in terms of his speed. but did hit at least the Pro Bowl threshold that you're looking at for that particular metric. And then when you kind of average out his explosiveness and his speed, he's right in line with the Pro Bowl averages. It's just we don't have the flexibility testing to kind of confirm a lot of those things. So that's the biggest thing with him. I think he has great size, good athleticism traits, but doesn't have any elite athleticism traits, at least confirmed on paper, which is why he's number 4 on this list. Then we get to number 3 on this list, which is Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Data grade 98.44 out of 100. Pros, elite size and length with elite flexibility and near elite speed for his size. Cons, slightly above average explosiveness. So taking a look at his athleticism traits, 63.95 in terms of explosiveness, 84 percentile in terms of speed, and 96 percentile in terms of flexibility for his size. Pretty much hits all the thresholds that you want from the All-Pro area, except for his speed score, which kind of hits more so the Pro Bowl averages. But it's still a dang good profile, guys. Even though it doesn't quite hit the thresholds, he's pretty close to it. He's within range of those thresholds. So I think in many ways he definitely has potential to be the top tackle in this class. If you have him as the top tackle in this class, I don't have a problem with that. Again, it's just based on the numbers. And of course, we get to number 2 on this list, which is Amarius Mims from Georgia. Pros, elite size and length with elite speed. Cons, did not have much data on lack of starts in college, which I don't. I don't have much data in terms of starts in college, but it could be a Bruce Campbell situation. I don't know if you guys remember Bruce Campbell. He was a former Oakland Raider that tested crazy at the combine, ridiculous numbers at the combine, and of course goes to the Raiders. It doesn't really do much on the Raiders long term. But again, if you were to look at his starts, he didn't really have that many starts in college. He had a long history of injuries, which Mims does to a certain extent as well. Some injuries here and there. But overall, I mean, when you look at his length, you look at his size and everything else like that, 98.75 is his overall data grade, and he's a fantastic tackle prospect just based on his athleticism and those other sort of factors. So taking a look at his athleticism, 75 percentile in terms of explosiveness, 95 percentile in terms of his speed score. All those numbers pretty much hit the all-pro averages at the position. You would like for him to be a little bit more explosive. It's a shame that his early combine agility testing, everybody was saying that he had like a 7.15 or 2.5, 3 cone, whatever. It was some ridiculous, crazy number. It's a shame that we don't have that as his actual testing numbers, but he's still impressive. He's still an impressive physical specimen in terms of his overall size and length and athleticism traits. So that is why he's number 2 on this list. And then the number 1 tackle in the 2024 NFL draft class, based on data, is J.C. Latham from Alabama. Now I know this is gonna be controversial, guys. It's gonna be controversial because J.C. Latham has not gone through any of the testing in terms of the 40-yard dash, the vertical, broad jump, short shuttle 3 cone. Has not done any of that stuff. This is based on his projected speed score, his size measurements, and the fact that he played at Alabama against pretty tough competition there. So pros, he has elite size and length. Cons, did not go through testing, but does have a near elite projected speed score with a data grade of 99.61 out of 100. Now, taking a look at his athleticism traits. Based on his projected 40-yard dash, again, if you go to NFLDraftScout.com, it has a 40 range in terms of what he could possibly be. Kind of picked the one right in the middle and kind of went with that. And I do that a lot with prospects where when we don't get their 40-yard dash information, you kind of have to go with something. You have to have something to hang your hat on. You're like, okay, is this reasonable for him to have this type of a speed score? And I would say, yeah, it's reasonable for J.C. Latham to put up an 80-plus percentile speed score. Would it be reasonable to have him as a 90-plus guy? Probably not without the confirmation. But I think overall, I think you could feel comfortable with it based on what he did and everything else like that. If he did run a little bit slower, he would have dropped down a little bit on this list, but he would be within the same range as all the other tackles I mentioned, like Fuaga and Fashanu and all those tackles because of his size, because of his overall data. So even though you may not want this guy to be number 1 on this list because he didn't go through all the athleticism testing, his other data points in terms of his size, his length, his level of competition that he faced, the team that he played on, and his age all put him where he's at right here if he did test based on his projected 40. So again, if you disagree with it, I totally understand. I get it. But at the same time, even if he did have a lower grade, he would still be in the same range of outcomes. Like, he still has the potential to be the top tackle in this class, even if he didn't put up that great of a speed score. He would have to bomb it, essentially. He would have to like run like a 5.5 40-yard dash, or maybe 4.3. Let me go with 4.25. If you ran a 4.25 40-yard dash, it would have really hurt him. But overall, these are the top 10 offensive tackles in the 2024 NFL Draft class. Thank you guys for watching. Check out these videos right here if you want to see more content like this. Check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/jcoburn. Also, check out my ex, formerly known as Twitter account on Geometrics, at Geometrics, I should say. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.